devotee. She has a very keen interest in learning and practicing pure devotional service, bhakti yoga. She has been practicing for many, many years. And she does various services for the temple. Some are not very visible. I just thought, how you can use this opportunity to glorify her service. And so she is responsible for interior decoration for the temple. So she does all kinds of decoration for our center. And of course, she partners with Neha Mataji and Jai Subhadra in doing altar decoration as well. So that is one of the primary services she does. She also takes care of our temple tenant management service, which is a tough one, meaning we have two tenants in the temple. She takes care of coordinating with them, taking care of their needs and everything, because that is one of the revenue source for us. Because if we don't have those tenants, it will be tough to hmm, make our expenses and things like that. So Mataji takes care of it very silently under the cover. She also does pujari service. When temple was open, she was doing a DD service as well, doing arati and things like that. As we all know, she is also a good singer. She does kirtan and things like that. So there are many things that she do. So she does, and she, of course, very compassionate and wonderful Vaishnavi. So with that, let us welcome Purnamasi Mataji today by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra one time together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Over to you, Purnamasi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm not qualified to speak, but with your guidance and compassionate, the person you are, I'm just trying to even make an effort to regurgitate what our seniors and Prabhupada has spoken. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate grim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabho Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Ananya will lead us into Jai Radha Madhav prayers, and then we can start with today's sloka.
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी.
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 यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी.
यशोदानंदन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी.
यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी.
यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरवनचारी.
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी.
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी.
यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनतिरवनचारी
यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरवनचारी
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे
राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे
जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे
जय जगन्नाथ बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा
जय जगन्नाथ बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा
जय निताय गौर सुंदर जय निताय गौर सुंदर जय निताय गौर सुंदर जय निताय गौर सुंदर
जय निताय गौर सुंदर जय निताय गौर सुंदर जय निताय गौर सुंदर जय निताय गौर
जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद
जय जय गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव
जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव
नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
जय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ananya. So today I'm making an effort to read from Bhagavad Gita, verse number 10, chapter 10, verse 9. Prior to starting with it, just wanted to kind of how have we come till this 10th chapter, just wanted to kind of go over that. So chapter 1 to 6 we went through, talked about more of karma yoga, and 8 to 12 Krishna speaks about bhakti yoga, and 13 and 18 more he's giving jnana yoga, which is also bhakti yoga, and that knowledge was very much needed for us to detach from materialistic things and attach to Krishna. Coming to chapter 10, there's a lot of significance to the verses 10.8 to 10.11, as they are called Chatushloki verses. Now, the significance of Chatushloki, I mean, at least from me, coming from a person as me who is lazy to read and even understand, not finding enough time, these, out of the 700 verses, the entire essence of Bhagavad Gita is kind of squeezed into these 4 verses. So if one at least makes an attempt to read and memorize and understand the realization of and the mood with which Prabhupada has interpreted this, that would actually help us a long way. I know the first time we might not, when we recite something we don't understand, the more we keep reciting, we get an understanding of it, and somewhere we get that light bulb moment that it might all come to make sense. So that's the one of the important aspect to understand, that is Prabhupada has toiled and moiled over trying to interpret each word, because in Sanskrit each word has 10 different meanings. So imagine how much he must have kind of put his heart and soul amidst all his activities and whatever things he used to do, to even put the right message across, so that as we all read it, we understand what it actually pertains to. So, and even Ramanujacharya, he has actually referred these as the nutshell verses of Gita, and subsequent teachers of Bhagavad Gita have adopted that nomenclature. So we'd go on to recite the verse. Ananya can recite the verse, and Prabhu, is there somebody else who would recite? I mean, I'm just checking. If we
No,
can
no,
recite and
you
read
can
the
go with your, yeah, yes, please.
मच्चित्तमद्गतप्राणा बोधयन्त परस्परं कथयन्तश्च मां नित्यं तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च.
Translation.
The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me.
Purport.
Purport. Pure devotees whose characteristics are mentioned here engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely on the transcendental subjects. The symptoms of the pure devotees are described in this verse specifically. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Their hearts and souls are constantly submerged in Krishna, and they take pleasure in discussing him with other devotees. In the preliminary stage of devotional service, they relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself, and in the mature stage, they are actually situated in love of God. Once situated in that transcendental position, they can relish the highest perfection, which is exhibited by the Lord in his abode. Lord Chaitanya likens transcendental devotional service to the sowing of a seed in the heart of the living entity. There are innumerable living entities traveling throughout the different planets of the universe, and out of them, there are a few who are fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee and get the chance to understand devotional service. This devotional service is just like a seed, and if it is sown in the heart of a living entity, and if he goes on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that seed fructifies just as the seed of a tree fructifies with regular watering. The spiritual plant of devotional service gradually grows and grows until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and enters into the Brahma Jyotir effulgence in the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky, also that plant grows more and more until it reaches the highest planet, which is called Goloka Vrindavana. The supreme planet of Krishna, ultimately, the plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna and rests there. Gradually, as the plant grows fruits and flowers, that plant of devotional service also produces fruits, and the watering process in the form of chanting and hearing goes on. This plant of devotional service is fully described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 19. It is explained there that when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in love of God. Then he cannot live even for a moment without being in contact with the Supreme Lord, just as a fish cannot live without water. In such a state, the devotee actually attains the transcendental qualities in contact with the Supreme Lord. The Srimad Bhagavatam is also full of such narrations about the relationship between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is very dear to the devotees, as stated in the Bhagavatam itself, 12.13.18. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. In this narration, there is nothing about material activities, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. Srimad Bhagavatam is the only narration in which the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord and his devotees is fully described. Thus, the realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental literatures, just as a young boy and girl take pleasure in association.
Thank you. So as you can see, such a beautiful verse. And this is so significant in terms of the content as well as the context. The context, the context, how is it significant is, in these are some of the last few verses where Krishna is, speaks as part of his instructions. And after this, Arjuna basically paraphrases and rephrases what Krishna has, so far spoken, so that he's trying to see, okay, have I understood this correctly? And after this, Krishna also explains the position of Krishna, that he is like unambiguously he declares Krishna as the supreme. He has the supreme position. He is the ultimate. He is the absolute truth. He is the pinnacle of existence. That's what comes immediately after these verses. So, and then the ninth chapter is also he terms it as the most confidential knowledge. And Krishna calls the 10th chapter as Paramam Vachaha. He wants to give the supreme instructions to, and thereby he's been building the suspense from 10.3 that this knowledge will help us from sinful reactions. And in 10.7 he makes it a little bit more clear, that he says that this knowledge will help you wholeheartedly be devoted to me. So vikalpena yogena yujyate natra samshayah. So without any doubt, without any delusion, you will wholeheartedly be fixed in me. So the context here is very important. Then how does this Chatushloki verses flow? In 8, the verse 8 gives a summary, whereas 9 and the 10, that is 10 and 11, 9, 10 and 11 basically elaborate on this 8th verse. In 10.8, he says, those who know I am the source of everything become enlightened. That is Buddha. That means he gives you the intelligence. And thereby, with that intelligence, what happens? You know that he is the ultimate and you surrender to him. So, and you get devoted to him wholeheartedly. Bhava samanvitaha, devoted and enlightened. 10.9, he says how you can become devoted. He's giving us the process. So how we can become devoted by adding Krishna to everything that we do. And 10.10, he says how they become Buddha, enlightened. That is, Krishna gives the Buddhi Yoga. And 10.11, he gives Buddhi and he says, I am present in the heart and I remove the darkness with the torch light of knowledge. And once the soul understands Krishna's position, he automatically becomes devoted and enlightened, as described in the 8th verse. So that is what results in the redirection of the heart, which is the 9th verse, and the redirection of the head, where the illumination and the understanding that comes from 10th and 11th. Now, how can we read it how can we understand it from another perspective? The other perspective per Chaitanya Charitamrita is Sambandha Krishna, Abhidhyaya Bhakti, Prema Prayojana, which means Krishna is with whom we want to develop that relationship, because he's that ultimate reality. That is, and as a personal relationship that we want to develop. Abhidhyaya is the process of how do we get there, and the result, the prayojan, is your Krishna Prema. So, for example, any activity that we take up, it always has these 3 steps. We have we have a relationship, then we have a process, and then we have a result. For example, when we see this advertisement of a person driving a car, and you have this caption, you say, oh, purchase this car and enjoy the envy in the neighbor's eyes. Well, that is the it indicates the level of consciousness in the people. But to kind of just give that as an example, so that when you look at that advertisement and you feel that, hey, I need to get that car, so you're connecting to that car, you're trying to build that relationship with the car. Once you buy, and then in order to acquire that car, what do? You either save money or you take a loan. So that is the process. And what is the result is you kind of get the satisfaction, and more than satisfaction, as the ad goes, you want to see the neighbor's envy. But does this what happen in real life? By the time you go pick up the car and come back, you look at your neighbor, he's driving a Porsche, and instead of he getting envy, you are feeling envious about the whole endeavor. So and the other example I remember, growing up, I've seen the advertisement for Unida TV, owner's pride, neighbor's envy. So it has become a common social norm that to be feeling envious is kind of common. So that is what I have, I mean, not to sideline the topic, but I've seen that it's common to say that you can be envious of what the neighbor has. Anyway, coming back to the topic where we are. So material world is just so that, you know, when we are just about to enjoy, and even in right now the cases, we are kind of a step ahead. The minute we add things in our cart, we have put our trigger finger and purchased it, immediately the brain moves on to the other next best thing. So it's not even that you have the item has made its way to our home. We have surpassed what we have done in so far in the past. We don't even need the thing item in our hand, but yet we have already moved on to the next best thing, because we have a feeling of, oh, I have attained this, and already the interest is lost. So you can imagine how with Facebook, the attention deficit has disorder is so much prominent, that every second when you keep triggering and you have these new messages popping up and down, that just keeps flashing and stimulating your brain in so many multiple ways, that we've kind of lost terms with reality. So Krishna, so as I mentioned in 10.8, rather than focusing and maintaining that relationship over materialistic things, this is where Krishna is trying to bring that focus and attention to having that relationship with him. And he says that sambandha, abhidhya and prayojana, the relationship, process and result, is what he talks about in 10.8. 10.9, he talks about abhidhyaya and prayojana, process and result. 10.11, he talks only about the process. So 10.8, he says why we should worship him. So this is absolutely very essential. This is the weapon we need in this day and age, this knowledge that why we are doing what we are doing. I know as kids, I used to just follow my mom, do what she did. Nowadays, the kids are not like that. The kids, they ask questions. Why are we doing this? Why not this God? Or why not that God? Why this religion? Why not that religion? And unless we are equipped to handle and know ourselves, we should be intelligent enough to answer that question. And from where does that intelligence come? Unless we are, have that awareness and knowledge of scriptures, we cannot help our kids. And it is so scary to even see some of the things happening to the young boys and girls. It kind of just gives me a shiver in my spine, that if without the proper knowledge, we are just sending them out to slaughterhouses. And that's exactly how I feel. This generation at most needs what is the purpose and why we are doing what we are doing. So once, and forget about answering others, we also have our own devil mind sitting in our own with us for 24 hours in a day, telling us, hey, why are you doing this? Why not that? Is this really good what you're doing? So even for our betterment and this thing, we need to understand what is the purpose and need behind what we are doing. So this verse actually says that Krishna is the source and sustainer of all. So that is basically saying this is the qualification of Krishna. Can any demigod or demigoddess claim this and say that they are the source and the sustainer of everything? No, nobody can. So knowledge of Krishna's position is what leads to enlightenment of the soul and makes him attracted to offer his whole heart to Krishna. So both what happens, the head and the heart gets transformed. Head is illumined by the intelligence, buddhi grows, and heart gets transformed because of bhava samanvitaha. So and attracted to offer both your heart and head. So now 10.9, here he talks about how they become devoted to him. So here he's laying out the process. So now he talks about the three faculties, chitta, mind. We know how wonderful our mind is, the monkey. Consciousness. He says, he does not say, if you look at the way that Prabhupada has written this verse, he says, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. He does not say devotees always think about me. He says, instead, Prabhupada has mentioned that the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, that is, dwell in Krishna. Isn't such a precise and a very poetic translation of this? When we love Krishna, Krishna becomes our inner home. And we may go here, we may go there, but somewhere we come back always for our shelter and security. And that is what we always, chime in with. And when we love Krishna, Krishna becomes our inner home. And devotees may do many things depending on their practical needs, day-to-day things and all. But after everything, and there's nothing else to think about, they return, their thoughts come back to Krishna. That is how exalted devotees um, practice this process, or they are already having this in them. The nature of the mind is always, it becomes absorbed in what it likes the most. So devotees of the Lord, that is exalted devotees, become so absorbed in remembering him because they develop that deep adoration for him. His devotion, the devotion to reverse Krishna, becomes the basis of their life, and from which they derive the meaning, the purpose, and the strength to live. And they feel it as essential to remember God as a fish feels it essential to have water. Nowadays, when we look at us, we can always see how what is very dear to people's hearts is always determined by where they dedicate their mind, their body, and wealth. Actually, in fact, I was talking to my husband, and he mentioned that in Bible, Matthew verse 6.21, it says, for where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. So, and we can always see people's hearts are studying, we can see people's hearts by studying their checkbooks and credit card statements. So maybe an exercise for you all is to go back and look at your credit card statements and bank, and it's just for your thing to check where does my heart lie, to kind of understand and see where we stand. And if you're spending on money on fancy cars, that's where your heart is. If it is on luxurious holidays, then that's what is most dear to them. So all of us have some inner homes. So of maybe it can be sense gratification, it can be money, or it can be like my dad, it is cricket. So there are so many mental homes that we are fond of. The whole process of this bhakti is to change that inner home. It is to make something higher than money or sense gratification or cricket. We make spiritual advancement to the extent to which our inner home changes. So it is a kind of introspection to think, okay, where are we landing, to kind of understand and measure where we stand. I mean, it is not for somebody else to point us out or somebody else to reprimand us. It is our own self thinking and introspection in this process. From worldly things to making Krishna as our inner home, then what happens is Krishna becomes our home. So, like a traveler example, an eerie and tired traveler, he has gone, traveled all over and across the whole wide world. And then finally, after an arduous journey, he comes back. Where does he comes back? He comes back to his home where he feels the sense of love, joy, and security and happiness of his own home. And he does not want to leave again. So once we get to that stage of purification, then what happens? Nobody wants to give up. Like if we look at the exalted devotees, once they have tasted that, they don't want to give up the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. They always want to go back, and thereby, because they did attained the pleasure of the lotus feet of Krishna, their misconceptions, they are freed from all the misery, then everything that agitates their mind, and they can bring their mind to Krishna. And he immediately gives them the serenity and tranquility. And remembering Krishna, they feel relieved and they move forward very steadily. I remember Satisar Prabhu, and also heard Loknath Swami Maharaj. He always said, keep it as KISS, which means keep it simple, stupid. That is the mantra on leading the life. But what is the current mantra of our current generation and we is complicated living and confused thinking. So this is how we have transformed how to keep it simple, to make it more confused, make it more complicated for us. So moving on to the verse, Machita madghata prana bodayanta parasparam kadayantascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. Machitta. Here he talks about three primary faculties are named here, of our existence are referred here. Machitta. Chitta is mind. Prana, it means the life itself, the life force and the body. Bodhayanta is when we hear to others speaking. And Katayanta is when we are talking. So, and what are we find? Tushyanti is we are finding delight in enlightening each other, and nityam, forever and ever. So this is how exalted devotees, they are controlling their mind, their body, their mind, senses, and how they are by themselves, and when they are in the association of others, how do they behave. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself also has demonstrated, when he would travel around, and when he gets into the association of devotees, he immediately sits and discusses Krishna Katha. And when I look at this and see how where I stand, I get bored after hearing once or twice Krishna Katha. So that shows what level I am at. So how are they able to continuously talk of topics like, for example, we had Govardhan Leela, we had Damodarashtakam, we had so many pastimes we keep hearing. I always seem to kind of go back and check, am I getting the same pleasure? How are they? I mean, we see something, we watch the Little Krishna series 1, then I'm like immediately like, okay, next what? So I'm just wondering how that would be, where it never gets bored, and it is like a new, it's like you're hearing it for the first time. I just would like to experience that, heart of hearts, actually speaking, when I introspect about this verse. In his Antalila, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he stayed in Puri, what he was doing is he did the Katayantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha. Tushyanti is satisfied. A devotee is satisfied with the bliss that Krishna is providing. The mood of Krishna, of the devotee, is gratitude. Krishna, whatever I'm getting is because of your mercy, and I don't even deserve this. And I have this opportunity of practicing Krishna consciousness, and I'm so satisfied with it. Ramanticha is actually used in the context of Madhurya Rasa, where devotee is looking forward for so much ecstasy, waiting for Krishna in the future. Here, I looked up the meaning for what is bliss and happiness and joy. You keep hearing these terms. So, and I looked up the meaning. It said happiness is an emotion, means it is an emotion of your mind, which means something externally happening to you, wherein you have that a period in which you feel really elated because of your, just suddenly your adrenal just shoots up, and your brain immediately sees this and pushes in the cortisol from a scientific perspective. So what happens because of that? You're bound to get back to your natural state, which is not that happiness. So happiness is not your constant state. It is just because of something happening to you from the outside. And I looked up what is bliss, and bliss said it is always the state of the mind. It is the current state of the mind always, which means immaterial, irrespective of what's happening to you, it is that state of bliss. That is something that we can relish when we associate with devotees. So when the devotee goes deeper and deeper into that feeling of that bliss and ecstasy, then the devotee's joy knows no bounds. His life is completely transformed, body, mind, speech, all used in Krishna's service. Srimad Bhagavatam also means that the joy of Krishna Katha is greater than the joy of material existence. In this way, devotees offer everything to Krishna and experience great joy. If you look at Prabhupada's purport here, he talks about how Shravana Kirtana Karaye Sinchana, which is from the Chaitanya Charitamrit, Madhya Leela, chapter 19. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually giving instruction to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. When spiritual master gives the bij that has to be protected and watered. So when we get a small plant or a small seed, what do? We water it, nurture it, and care for it. So similarly, in our bhakti process, the watering is the Shravana and Kirtana, and protecting is how we ensure, like how we safeguard it, see how it ensure it gets sunlight. If we plant it where kids are not trampling on it, we take care of it so that that plant actually blossoms. So this is like the Bhaktilata bij that is such a very important aspect of what Prabhupada is actually mentioning here. How this particular seed grows from plant, grows and blossoms into beautiful tree with lots of flowers and fruits. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it also describes that this tree actually grows beyond the material sky, beyond the covering of the universe, through Brahma Jyoti, up to the spiritual sky. And in the spiritual sky, it actually goes beyond Vaikunta to Goloka, and to Goloka Vrindavan, touches Krishna's lotus feet. The tree blossoms, fructifies, and then the fruit falls from spiritual to material world. And the devotee can relish that taste of that this thing from here itself. So it is explained that, when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in the love of God, and that he cannot even live even for a moment without being in contact with the Supreme Lord, just as a fish cannot live without water. In such a state, the devotee actually attains the transcendental qualities in contact with the Supreme Lord. So here we can see how exalted devotees really, they are at a whole new level, that they have transcended the modes of material nature. They are basically in a transcendental state, and they can relish that supreme ecstasy with Krishna. And this is very mystical. And for me, when I read this, it was very mystical, and I was hearing to some lectures, and it was practical also at the same time. Devotional service is very natural to the soul, and but we have turned our back to explore the material existence. So this description of the supreme ecstasy faced by exalted devotees is by exalted devotees who are at a very advanced stage, and they are above these material modes of nature. In the preliminary stage of devotional service, we all relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself. And in the mature stage is when you're actually situated in the love of God. So we all know that we have these 9 stages of bhakti yoga. It starts with shraddha, a little faith, and there is something in your corner which says, hey, you know what, there is something more to this. And then you get into the association with devotees, that is your bhajana sadhu sangha. And then in the association of devotees, what do? You do bhajana kriya, performance of devotional service. That is what is your practice. That leads to your ananta nivritti, where you're decreasing your unwanted attachments, and you're getting into the stage of purified of unwanted things, and anything that is a separate desire that is not connected towards Krishna. Then it comes to when we get past that ananta nivritti stage, we get past to nishta, which means steadiness. At this point, we are like more confirmed and more we have a strong conviction onto why we are doing what we are doing. Then we come to the state of ruchi. We get the taste for doing it. Then we develop an attachment, that is the asakti. We develop an attachment to what we are doing. That rises emotions in our heart, bhava. And then finally we attain the supreme, the topmost Krishna prema, the love of God. It's very beautiful and not complicated on how this is. It's very beautiful, not complicated. And some may even think, how is this possible? And that's where the mercy of exalted devotees and the Vaishnavas come into our life. Once we get into the contact with the devotee, that is when our whole life changes. And the devotees that have that love for Krishna, not only do they have that love for Krishna, they have so much compassion that on all the other living entities, that like the other part and parcels of Krishna. So Krishna wants to give us that supreme ecstasy. That is what is one of the most important verses of Bhagavad Gita, which talks about the association and the joy that is experienced intensely, especially in association. Now, how do we get the association of devotees? Krishna, if we look at it, we are the ones who said we were envious of Krishna and we ended up here because we wanted to enjoy this thing. So Krishna does not meddle with our free will, and he accepts our desire to go separate from him. and he does not interfere. But at the same time, he does not do a tit for tat. Oh, you went away from me, now go get lost on your own. No, he's not like that. He's like, okay, my kid is away from me, but yet I'm going to provide him with all these scriptures available, so that whenever they feel the need, they have access to it and they can understand and come back to him. So much of compassion Krishna has, and that's the reason he makes sure we have access to scriptures that describe his activities and be in our heart. And he's also in our heart as super soul, right? Paramatma guiding us every minute of the way. But when we show that some sort of desire or attraction, that is when he helps us find a way. And he does not persuade us to change our mind. And with Krishna's mercy, we come into contact of Vaishnava or a devotee. So in my personal case, I remember most of us can relate to this. When we initially were married, we were like any other couple. Watch weekend means it's like Saturday, Sunday, full-time movies. We used to cook once a week. I can hardly imagine how I survived that. And I think after I got pregnant, and I think that's when I had this desire, when I was hearing about other moms, pregnant moms, listening to Mahabharata, Ramayana. And also, and as you all know, I've married a Christian, and also my other family members, like, what kind of tradition is this, is Preeti going to bring up her kids in? So that actually originally started that desire in me, that God, please help me, um, though maybe I lack the fund of law, not proper knowledge of, or even understanding what I'm doing, why I'm doing. Please, I want to give that proper knowledge to my kid. At that time, I didn't know it was a girl or a boy. So that is when I came in contact with my and actually, this is a moment to, we are all here somehow or the other through that mercy of some devotee. uh, Frankly speaking, I mean, I wouldn't have been here without her mercy. I when I spoke to her, and I could taste that love for Krishna. And till then, it was a very, I still remember we used to go to the temple. It was a very materialistic exchange of things, go to the temple, do some yajna, give the priest some money, and come back. But when I actually came in contact with this devotee, it was just amazing. The way she used to sing bhajans, the way her devotional service was, I was aghast. I was like, I could feel that love, and in the practice that she was doing, and I really wanted to hear more. And that is where, just like how we have to have desire, how open we are to absorb what is being told is very important. If we don't have that absorption, if we are not open minded, and we have to ask questions. Like as Satyasa Prabhu says, it's not something that we follow blindly, then it becomes blind faith. But it has to be coming from a place of humility, that you are trying to understand this for, you're trying to know this for your understanding, but not from a place of trying to challenge it. So there's a big difference when you try to challenge it, and when you're coming from a place of trying to understand things. And how much the devotee is open in understanding and comes with an open mind, the faster they progress. And unlike Krishna, the devotees are far more compassionate. They even tell you, hey, are you doing your rounds, are you following this? So that is compassion. Because I was just hearing another lecture, like, everybody in this world is, they know that, this is the time, limited time I have got spent, and everybody is in a hurry to do their part in this world and go back to Goloka. So it's like, when a house is burning, okay, you are not going to sit and watch, oh, is there a hole in the roof? But everybody is running in this thing to get back to Godhead, do their spiritual practice. So in that stage, when everybody is running, one devotee comes and tells you, hey, this is what you need to do. We need to appreciate, give that devotee a hug and really fall at their feet, because they have taken that time to even tell you what to do, when it is for each for his own. This world is like each to his own, right? I mean, who has the time to sit and guide others to say, hey, this is what you should do, this is not what's not supposed to do? No, it is not. It is not easy. because most people think people get offended, or they think it's not my part, it's not my job to tell them. I know I'm doing my part, I'm fine, let the other person go to hell. But that is the heart of a devotee, and a compassionate devotee who takes the time and tells and corrects you. And how open minded are we to absorb that? So that is what I actually, I still, even today, when I was reading through this verse, I was remembering that because of the devotee I am here. And that must be the case for everybody in this room. I mean, it's through the mercy of some devotee that we have kind of come to this amazing, outstanding knowledge, supreme knowledge. And we are here, and we have a community wherein we are learning, our kids are learning, and we are growing up in a more, we are all in this together, growing up in a more Vedic way, understanding scriptures. So the devotee here actually, helps us engage in asking us to take us the devotional service, just as I mentioned. And if that person accepts the process and takes to the chanting of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This is what is watering the plant of devotion in our heart, that grows more and more. So the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is like the detergent that we use to clean the vessels. The more we clean it, the more the bubbles come out. And then finally, when we rinse it out is when, so we are still in the process of, in the bubbling stage. That means all our anarthas are still there. At least I'm speaking about myself. So for myself, I have a long way to go. And all the other instructions that are assisting the process of naturally growing that plant of devotion does not get hampered. In order for a plant to grow, we know it needs roots, it needs the sunlight, water, and nourishment. That's all it needs. So we may also build a fence so that the deer does not eat it, or the kids don't trample it. And we remove other weeds so that it is not eating away the plant's nourishment. So, and I remember this, when Dhanakeli Mataji and Prithishrav Prabhu came to our place, my husband had this question: why do you always say don't associate with non-devotees? Why? What does that mean? So Mataji was so kind, and she said, Sunil, when your devotion is at a very premature stage, like when it's just a seed, do you go put it out in, or a plant, it's grown, like not a seed also, now like, oh, what is Krishna, what I have to do? So it's just sprouting, it's just germinated. So she said, would you go and plant it in the middle of the park where people trample it? You protect it. So when you go and you are in the midst of non-devotees who talk about why you're doing, and they may even make fun. So when your roots are themselves not properly firmly planted in the ground, and when somebody makes fun of you, oh, you know what, wow, come on, man, the minute you open your mouth, all you talk about is Krishna and chanting, I'm done with you. So when people ridicule us, make fun of us, we cannot protect ourselves from that conversation, or stand up firmly and say why you saying and why you're doing what you're doing, because you're still in the process of learning. So that is what here it means, like when you are in that stage, you have to be even more protective about what you know. Once you've grown into a jada tree, and you know what you're doing, and you have a strong conviction, then you go out and you mingle with anybody, you are not going to change, and that's not going to affect you. So that's one of the things, that's what here they are talking about, nurturing and protecting. Just not Shravana Kirtana, we need to protect it also, because this is one in million years. We have got even the desire, and also with our previous Sukruti, we have come into contact with a devotee who can help us and give this knowledge. Now we need to, it is our thing to protect this knowledge. And this is how we protect before we go out in the wide world. Um, and also some may say, hey, why you're following these rules and regulations? So for any religion, there are some rules and regulations. Why are these rules and regulations? It's not God imposing. It is not why people say, why are you doing? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do this? No, these instructions are usually there to assist us in the way so that the plant naturally grows and the devotion does not get hampered. Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, it's full of also narrations about the relationship of the Supreme Lord and other devotees. In Srimad Bhagavatam is so dear to all the devotees, as stated in 12.13.18. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavam Priyam. So in this narration, they are not talking about material activities, they are not talking about economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the only narration in which transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord and his dear devotees is described. Thus, the realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental literature, just as a young boy and a girl take pleasure in association. In Ananta Nivritti platform, our ingrained nature and habits and conditioning from past and current lives gets in the way, but not that the process is difficult or painful. It is because something is coming in between us and the process. But when we keep hearing Krishna's bhajans, chanting the holy name, offering service to him, all these activities that are natural to the soul, it basically fills our heart with satisfaction and happiness. And when I think about this verse, the topmost devotees that come to my mind, of course, Radharani is the topmost. So much so, Krishna wanted to even experience the bliss that Radharani, felt, and he came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to witness it. To even personally, he wanted to experience it, not even witness, experience. The Vrajavasis, I remember they have the perfect example of the Raganuga Bhakti, also called as Ragatmika Bhakti, which are the gopis. When we have the favorite, very nice pastime wherein Narad Muni, he understands that Krishna is in pain and he's having headache, and Krishna says, my only remedy is the dust of the lotus feet of the devotee. So he goes to Brahma, he goes to all the demigods everywhere, and they all say, no, the King Krishna's queens, all of them say, no, that is so offensive. How can I give my the dust of my feet to Krishna? No. Then finally he goes to Vrindavan, and the Vrijavasis, they ask him what happened, and he says this, and then immediately they don't even wait for him to finish. Immediately, oh, Krishna has a headache, and immediately they take the dust from their feet. It not from a feeling that, hey, my dust is Krishna is taking. No, it is from a feeling that nothing should affect Krishna. Krishna should be all right. Let it, Narad Muni also says, hey, you might go to hell. They say, no, so what? Be it hell or heaven. If we remember Krishna, think of Krishna, and pleasure of Krishna is what is utmost. So that, I know I've heard this so many times, but when I was meditating on that mood of the gopis, it was very moving. It was not like a feeling like, oh, my dust is very important. It is how Krishna is suffering, and how can I give pleasure to Krishna even for a moment. And for this, if we have to suffer, they say this, and even if we have to suffer in hell for eternity, then we are ready for it. We only want Krishna's happiness and nothing else. So the love of the gopis is something that is unparalleled. So on the most advanced stage, what to speak of desiring to go back to Godhead? They were even preparing to go to hell. Third, when I think of the topmost, touches me the most is Srila Prabhupada. And I wanted to, as part of preparing, I wanted to read through one of his, how he, at the age of 65, with $40 in his, 40 rupees, not even dollars, 40 rupees in his pocket, Prabhupada set out in Jaladuta. In a cargo ship, which is the Jaladuta means messenger of the sea, on a journey by sea, which is a 40-day journey. And thus journey, trust me, was during the hurricane season. And it is a cargo ship. Okay, so let's think about his age, the circumstances in which he traveled, what money he had. Right now, when my parents say they are coming, they know care of address, return address. They know someone is coming, picking them up, going to take care of them, going to give them the next meal. So imagine at 65, I mean, when you're young, that's different. At 65 years, you are just going there knowing, okay, my friend's son is going to come there. So you still know whether he's really going to end up or turn up there or not. So I was just how much surrendered, and that this thing tells me about the surrendered nature of Prabhupada. We are so controlling. We want everything planned. We want everything organized. My parents, they are going to travel in February to India. Now only they are calling up. Is the Kirana fellow coming to home to pick up things? Is the servant maid coming? Is this I mean, so much of plan. I mean, for Prabhupada, when I look at Prabhupada, he doesn't even know who's going to come and pick him up. Traveling in such, when we book our parents tickets, we say, oh, is it a good, is it a proper economy class or first class journey? He's come in a cargo. Imagine how much he has sustained in that travel. It's not easy to travel in a cargo. Cargo is pretty much, carrying boxes of load, and there's probably not even a proper place to even sit. And he comes with this box of Bhagavatam, and he wants to preach. And he's coming to India to US to preach at the behest of the spiritual master. He had 2 heart attacks on that ship, and one again in New York. He was only going with the hope that a friend's son will pick him up and then they will drive him and they drove him to the house, to their place where they actually ate meat. But Prabhupada cooked his own food, and not only did he not eat, he even served them. So when big swamis and Maharaj come, imagine how we serve them. Whereas the mood and the at that time, the people with whom Prabhupada was staying, they did not even understand what a magnanimous soul he was, and it was such a good fortune of them that Prabhupada stayed in their house. And while in Pennsylvania, he felt he had the need to go to New York, and he sets out to New York with no address. He finds himself in a Bowery where drunks and drug addicts reside. And he even shared a place with a drug addict who once attacked Prabhupada, and he had to fled the place. So, and then above all this, something that touched my heart was his letter of journey. And we all know Prabhupada is amazing. He is the main brain behind this movement that we are all connected to. We have over 108 temples. Such a huge enterprise right now, wherein we are cultivating bhakti practice. But in his journey, in his letter, he says, "My dear Lord Krishna, you're so kind upon this useless world," and not to think about the number of numerous translations of the various Sanskrit scriptures, literally from Bhagavad Gita to Bhagavatam to so many things that he has translated. And we are actually the useless, unintelligent people. But in spite of that, he calls himself useless soul. But I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. So it just tells how he feels about himself, how surrendered he is. But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? Most of the population here is covered by material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudeva. I do not know how they will be able to understand it. So he's showing his helplessness here. But I know that your causeless mercy can make everything possible, because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the mellows of devotional service, O Lord? I am simply praying for your mercy so that I will be able to convince them about your message. All living entities have come under the control of illusory energy by your will, and therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. So imagine, here's the compassionate portion of it. So as a devotee, so compassionate about the rest of the people in the West, all delved into Maya and in their materialistic thinking and a materialistic existence of life, that he wants to deliver them. That's how a Vaishnava thinks. He does not care about himself. He cares about the deliverance of the other Vaishnava soul. So that is another thing that resounded to me with this verse that I just read. Somehow or the other, you brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure, as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. So here again, he says, it is not my knowledge, my understanding of scriptures. He says, you are the one, you are the doer. So look at the how great souls, when they do such some of the things which a common man you think cannot even do it, how do they go back and think about it? They don't say that they are the cause for it, they are the doer. They are ultimately, he says, Krishna, you, it is because of you. You give me the intelligence and the ability to speak, so that the people in the West understand me, and they can come to you. And then he says, oh Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance, oh Lord, make me dance as you like. So how many of us like when Krishna gives us problems? Not many. Everybody will run from the scene cursing Krishna, saying, Krishna, this is not good. I have done so much service. I have chanted, I have done this, I have done that. You're giving me problems. Sorry, Krishna consciousness does not say you are going to be relieved of problems. I have no devotion. Prabhupada says this, I have no devotion. So what to think of us? We practice for 2 years and we think we are better than anybody. But Prabhupada writes here, I have no devotion, nor do I have knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have designated as Bhakti Vedanta. And now if you like, you can fulfill the real purpose of Bhakti Vedanta. So this is something for our introspection, based on the letter of Prabhupada and how we think of ourselves. We chant 16 rounds, we follow regulative principles, and we suffer from the syndrome called pure devotee syndrome. So we self-brand ourselves. So when we hear the words of the script, Mahatmas and these pure devotees, it actually makes us feel how insignificant and actually puts us in our place, bluntly said. So when Supreme Soul is glorified, the small soul is purified. With that, I end. Satyasar Prabhu, thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for all the Vaishnavas to putting up with me for my endless banter. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you will take questions, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Devotees, please ask questions to Mataji.
I think nobody.
Yeah, Prashant Prabhu, go ahead.
Mataji, I just wanted to say thank you for the wonderful class. It was very nice to hear you speak about the 10th chapter and then speak about your own personal journey. It's inspiration for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. When I spoke about my daughter and when I spoke about how everybody, I know we all desire that our kids grow up the spiritual practice. And I was hearing to a lecture wherein one of the Mataji says, Prabhu, how do I bring my kid? Mataji, how do I bring my kids into this Krishna consciousness? And the speaker, she was so amazing. She said, when did you take up this practice? You have, it's like the cat that ate the 100 mice and went to Hajj. There is a Hindi translation to that. Billi sau chuha khake Hajj ko gaya. So you have done all these things in 35 years or plus, and then you came to Krishna consciousness. But immediately the kid is in our womb, we want them to come out with the chanting beads and in that this thing. So she said, no, we are not supposed to pressurize them. We are not supposed to basically what is the word, no, we are not supposed to push them into doing it. That is something they take up automatically, because just as it mentioned, Prabhupada mentioned, it is the nature of the soul. And what is the kids seeing? They are seeing pratyakta darshan, they are seeing the parents. So as parents, if we can imbibe that values and that culture in them, they will easily and automatically take it up with them. So I don't know why I wanted to speak that to you, Prashant Prabhu. Maybe you are having some good news on the way. I don't know. I don't know why out of the blue I spoke. So I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Purnamasi Mataji. There are no other questions, so I'll ask Jasbatra to give a vote of thanks.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna devotees. Thank you Purnamasi Mataji for the wonderful class on this very important verse that Krishna is speaking about, Chatushloki verse. And you have very nicely explained the whole process of the Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojana, and how the exalted or pure devotees actually they relish, hearing Krishna Katha all the time. They are satisfied with what Krishna provides them. What is their mood? Their mood is of gratitude. Their state of mind is of bliss always. And they're always talking about Krishna Katha. So, and you also very nicely explained the process as described by Srila Rupa Goswami, the stages of bhakti, starting from Shraddha, little Shraddha to Bhajana Kriya, everything, Sadhu Sangha and everything, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. So it's, and then you nicely explained the process, the how, through the example of Bhakti Lata Beach develops by the example of growing a plant from seed, how we take care of the seed and then seedling, how it grows a little bit and so forth. So overall, so many points you shared nicely, and about Srila Prabhupada also, his surrender and how he preached Krishna consciousness. So thank you very much, Mataji, for the wonderful class once again.
Thank you very much, Purnamasi Mataji, brilliant class. So with that, we'll move on to the next part of our agenda, which is going to be, we'll make a quick announcement, Rama Prabhu will do it. Then Akhilesh Prabhu will sing Narsimharti. Hare Krishna Prabhu, are you able to?
Hare Krishna, yes Prabhu. Now we can hear you.
Oh.
Hare Krishna. So quick announcements. So Gita Jayanti is on 25th, December 25th, and Veena Mataji had sent out a message for sign up. Hope you all were able to do the sign up, and if you have not had a chance to sign up, please talk to Veena Mataji. Maybe it's already full, but please check with her anyways. And the other program we have is on New Year's Eve, that is on December 31st evening. We have the Maha Sankirtan Yajna program. And this is an excellent opportunity for you all to do Kirtan and, show your talent, as well as, it's a very good time to welcome the new year with, thinking about Krishna. So there is a sign-up sheet for that also. Please talk to Neha Mataji and Dasamai Mataji about it if you have any plans to participate. And we strongly encourage you to participate, in fact. So that's all the announcement we have. So we'll move on to the next one, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Akhilesh, would you like to sing Narsimharti, please?
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladalaye Praladalaye Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Sila Kankanakalaye Sila Kankanakalaye Ito Nasimho Palato Nasimho Nasimho Parato Nasimho Yata Yata Yamitato Nasimho Yeto Yeto Yamitato Nasimho Bahir Nasimho Ritaye Nasimho Bahir Nasimho Ritaye Nasimho Narasimha Adim Sharanam Prapade Narasimha Madim Sharanam
Abhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Danu Bringa Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Avakara Kamala Vare Nata Abhuta Shringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringa Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare
Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev
Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev Jaya Narsimhadev
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol
Hari Bol
Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol
Ki Jai
Prahlad Maharaj ki
Jai.
Sankirtan Ki Jai
Akhilesh Prabhu ki jai. It was wonderful, Nashing Aarti. Thank you very much, Akhilesh, for beautifully singing, and thank you, Radha Prabhu, for Mridanga, playing Mridanga for him. With that, we'll conclude here. Our Sunday online love feast is concluding here. Thank you all for joining. Looking forward to your association next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mamta Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Anand Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Rani Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.